Hi guys, welcome to Chakra Sessions. I'm your host, Polly Jo Labbé, here with Star Nation's Radio Network and being broadcast through Be Live TV on Facebook. So thank you for being here with me today. It's been a little while since I've been here. I was under the weather and basically needed a little time off. So thank you for everybody who put up with my needs at the moment. And so let's see who's in the house. So Christine, yes, hi, welcome. Glad you're here. Nice to see you. And Julie, hello. And Christine is like, I hope you are feeling better. Yes, an interesting set of things was occurring. I really was sick for about 6 weeks. And it was like little symptoms at first, and then it got into pretty big abdominal pain. So in the abdominal pain era, my team really modified my activities, my sleep, and what I needed to do to take care of me. And what's so interesting is, I had to have a CT scan and ultrasound, all sorts of things. Lots of blood tests and whatnot. And finally, I had to have a colonoscopy, and I've had one before, but there was something about this one that actually like purged whatever illness was still in there. And as soon as I woke up, I was hungry and starting to feel better. So that's what's been going on. So I'm glad you guys are here. Welcome, Tina. Nice to have you. Good morning, Nathan. Glad you're on board. Hi, Rob. Glad to see you. Always happy to see the What'd You Know, Polly Jo. That always is a great thing. Hi, Vicki. Yes. I was just explaining that I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you for asking. It's interesting when spirit tries to create change in our lives. And even spiritual teachers like me will resist some of the change at times. I was in the middle of finishing up my school, and I kept saying to my team, I don't have time to take time off. I have to get through this. And there's times when you're not meant to push through. And so there was a lot of surrender that needed to happen around being sick and really allowing my team to step up into their brilliance as they supported me. And here's one of the women, Francesca. So great to see you. Thank you for stepping in and really making sure that we could get the last class of Griffins graduated and out the door so I could get some rest for the last couple of weeks anyways. So thank you guys. So nice to have you here. So one of the things that kept coming up in the last few weeks with students and clients and myself is that we all have a core wound. And it sounds kind of doom and gloom, but some people will call it your sacred contract, that you have a particular lesson that is meant to challenge you at various steps and times in your spiritual growth and development. And it's something that you revisit time and again. And it comes up in different relationships. It comes up in different ways. And we have this wound that needs healing. And, it may not totally heal in this lifetime, but it's like each time it comes up, you can choose between being, oh no, here it is again, or welcome, old friend. I guess we're working on a new level of healing. Yes, John, the archetype of Chiron. For those of you who do star charts or know anything about the energy of Chiron is the wounded healer. And that's what's really cool is that we all have a particular way that we do, our woundedness. And, some people need to work on abandonment and some people need to That's the big one that keeps coming up. Abandonment has been a big one for a number of people. But we all have a particular energy that we were wounded with, and it shaped who we are. And there's nothing wrong with the wound. It's more like we have this battle scar, you know, and every so often somebody pokes at it and says, hey, what's with this scar? And we can either see it as healed and a scar, or we can see it as an open wound. And so as we're doing our transformational work, however we decide to journey through and do that, we want to be able to take a look at that wound and see if it's starting to heal over. Because it doesn't need to, it can guide us through our life, but it doesn't have to keep us in a wounded state. So, oh, thank you. Glad to see Vicky's in the house. Ah, Minnie, hi. Yes, I'm happy to be smiling, I'll tell you. There was not a lot of smiling, I'll tell you. When I wasn't feeling well, there was not much smiling going on. There was a lot of pain management and nausea management that was going on. So as part of our core wound, or our sense of, you know, what we are meant to heal, like what's our big journey about, you know, we can take that role of being a victim, or we can become victorious. Like, this is what shaped me. This is what has made me who I am. It doesn't have to control you. It can just be a definition of you and your strength. I see our core wound as being the thing that determines how we create resilience within ourselves and how we create our foundation for our inner strength. And so if, you know, I was pulling a card to deal with the core wound out of the tarot deck, it would be the strength card, and the one with the lion on it, and the woman who's taming the lion. And the energy around that is being very connected, very open, and knowing that, you know, at times it can be a roaring lion. That wound can really come out and have us reacting, or it can just be that place of inner strength. So that's just how that goes. So yes, Kimberly, I am feeling much better. Thanks for asking. And Rob, just enjoy us in the archive. I'm sure there's a lot of juicy information for you because you know a lot about Chiron. And, you know, what's interesting is, you know, I've dealt with healers who are in a space where, you know, they don't necessarily believe that we have a core wound. And yet, if you have your star chart done, it's right there. It's the contract. It's the thing that we need to work on. And that's okay. It's like, okay, this, you know, year, I'm going to work on this, or this lifetime, I'm going to work on this. There's a really lovely book by Sonia Choquette that's called Soul Lessons. And it outlines 22 of the top versions of soul contracts or soul lessons or core wounds that people are working on. And we all have them. We've all been through them. And the interesting thing about that is she discusses, it's a channeled reference manual, it was channeled through her, about, you know, what level of mastery are you at? Are you a beginner? You know, have you been working at it a long time? Because we shift from the wound defining us to us just so knowing that wound is really defining who we are, which is really cool. So in this space, in this container that we're in, the sacred classroom, we all have something that is in our contract to work on. You know, I had a conversation with my mom a couple of months ago And, you know, patience is one of her things that she's supposed to work on. I don't know if it's her core wound. I don't think so. But, you know, my mom is, you know, in her 70s. And, you know, I was like, Mom, you know, how about you breathe and work on your patience? And she said quite clearly, I don't do patience and I'm not going to do it in this lifetime. I'm just going to have to come back and do it again. And I was like, okay, as long as you know that if you don't work on being patient, you're going to have to come back into another lifetime, another incarnation to work on it. All right, then go ahead, Mom, you know, do that. Which was ironic to me because we can work on our lessons at any age, at any point in our journey. Because any little bit that we do to work on it means we start, you know, at a fresher point or a fresher perspective when we enter the next time around, if we reincarnate. So for me, I'm doing all my work because, you know, I don't want to work on it again. You know, this stuff comes up for me and I'm like, I want to clear it this lifetime because I don't want to do this again. Not this particular lesson in this particular fashion. You know, I'd like to, you know, I don't want to take an incomplete. I would like, even if it's just a passing grade, I would like to pass through some of the challenges that get thrown to us. So as we're, you know, sitting here and talking about this and discussing it, nice. Tina says, I know I have a core wound. Don't know how to get at it though. Yes. Perfect. Perfect question. Perfect segue. Yay. Thank you for sharing that. That was perfect. So lots of times we know we have this wound and it's running through our energy body. And at times it's running our energy body. So what do we do about it? How do we get at it? How do we start to heal it? How do we start to release all the energy that wound takes up within our field? And, you know, many of you have been here when I've talked about our soul chakras, as well as our 7 physical body, earth body chakras. We also have another 5 soul chakras that sometimes are referred to as the higher self. And when we are able to hold that energy within us, which we can with practice, we have this sort of central place in our energy body. And in different modalities, they call it like your star seed, or they call it your soul point. My team basically thinks of it as your core, kind of like you talk about in exercise, right? That you're working on your core, which is slightly below your 3rd chakra, and very close to your belly button, pretty much almost on top of it. So it's like our umbilical cord to the universe. And when we go to our soul center, we are able to then access the energy that flows through all of our chakras. And we ask our heart, our higher heart, to help us, to bring healing, compassion, and love to the wounded space. And it may sound easy, and it is definitely not. But when we go into this core place, we can start to experience in our own unique way where the cords of connection are between the wound and how it operates in our physical body. And often the core wounds are in our heart, in our 3rd chakra, and in our 2nd chakra, and on our 1st chakra. The lower 4 is generally where it's at. Sometimes it's in the throat chakra or up above in the 6th or the 7th. But in general, it's going to really impact how you feel about yourself. And so that's why it's very intertwined with your third chakra. And whether it collapses your energy. If it collapses your energy, which, think about it, it's a core wound. So it's actually constricting and keeping you from moving fully. That's where that kind of takes place. So Tina, oh, good morning, Bobby. Nice to see you. Yes, Tina, do you think that's why we have stomach problems? Yes. It's not the only reason, but yes, the stomachs that's a huge, huge reason for us to have that. The stomach issues that are going on kind of as a planet right now, a lot of people are having stomach flus and stomach problems. I mean, that was really what I was experiencing. And a lot of what I was experiencing wasn't just my own, because I am a planetary clearer. So sometimes what the earth is going through, I go through, and at times it's difficult for me to separate that, especially when it's in my physical body. I have to assume it's all my energy when it's happening in a physical form. But in that space in the stomach, the abdomen, so whether it's the stomach, the pancreas, the liver, the kidneys, like that whole upper area that's governed by the third chakra, that's where we keep all our resentment, our judgment, our frustration, our anger, our self-esteem, our self-worth, our self-confidence, and our desire and passion to move forward in life. That's a lot of energy. It's why it's, where our fire element is. And, when the fire is burning out of control, it impacts our stomach and our abdominal region in one way. And if our fire is like almost distinguished and going out, well, that impacts our energy in another way. And the fire is one of the hardest elements to keep balanced. Our ego has a lot of control over that. Our inner critic is running the show when it comes to that. And so we hold a lot of energy there. And then throw on top of that 80% of empaths feel and experience energy first in their abdomen, in their third chakra. 80%. I mean, that's huge. And there's a lot of empaths on the planet at the moment, because we're here to help raise the vibration of the planet, to help people remember how to feel their feelings and express who they are. So a lot of us are getting sort of sucker punched in the gut at various points in time. And you notice it if you go to certain locations, right, where your stomach starts to hurt from the, and we'll say, oh, it has to do with stress, or, there's too much chaos. Well, that can be true. But the reason we respond is because that area is weaker for us. And often our core wound, we may have a particular part of our body where we have difficulty a lot. I had my right hip was problematic for a certain amount of time because I kept dislocating my hip. And as a dancer, I had a lot of flexibility in my joints. And so it was easy for it to slide in and out. Extremely painful. But it was one of those things that would stop me in my tracks. And it's when I wasn't doing the work that I'm doing now, it was one of the ways that I got sort of zinged that things weren't going well. And now I realize that there's a warning signal where my tailbone starts to hurt a little bit. And when my tailbone starts to hurt a little bit, then the energy around the hip is a little weakened. And that's your manifestation point. So I know that when I'm a little out of whack in certain ways, that tailbone is a warning light. And No, that warning light had been going off for about 8 weeks. And I was, ignoring it to a degree. But I did get oversaturated in my stomach. And like I said, I am totally clear. So Julie's asking, how do we discover what our core wounds are and what lessons we are working on to target our learning? So there, I will post it in the comments after, but I really find that Sonia Chokat's book that's called Soul Lessons is such a good starting place. There's 22 major lessons that every soul needs to go through. And you can tap into that and see which ones resonate for you. And you may be working on a number of different ones because we all, are in a different place in our learning. But there's going to be one in particular that sticks out as like, oh, this one just keeps coming up over and over and over again in my life. And that will let you know. The other thing that you could do is if you haven't gotten your star chart done by Julie Hedges yet, I would highly suggest it because as part of her work, she looks at your Chiron energy. So Chiron is part of your star chart. It allows us to see the energy of the wounded healer. And so she's another pathway where it can talk about, she can talk to you about what the stars are showing you. But for me, I'm a book person. So I started by investigating with Sonia's book. But then, it got reinforced when I had my chart done by Julie. So that's a fabulous question. And I think it's great for you to look at that. And the other way to kind of investigate is what things happen over and over again in your life. There are people who are, we have wounds around having been a healer in past lives. And so we are afraid to use our gifts fully or to open them because we're not sure it's safe. And it doesn't matter how much, spiritual teachers like myself can say to you, it's not meant to happen in this lifetime. It's not a lifetime of persecution. It's a lifetime of activation. That doesn't make that old embedded past life fear any less. And so I do a lot of past life healings with healers who are getting in their own way because they have this old fear of success or a fear of being out there and being seen and being visible as a healer. And what will that mean? And will my life be in jeopardy? Not necessarily in a kind of realistic way, but in just that old fear kind of way. So that's another great way to do that. Hi, Brandy, glad you are here. So in this place, we all have this major lesson and a number of lessons we're working on. Carolyn Mace, M-Y-S-S, is her last name. She does a lot of work on archetypes, and she has a book that's called Sacred Contracts. And in the Sacred Contracts, it's like you came down with a set of marching orders, and those marching orders are the things that you had to work on. And so you needed to have some sort of trauma, whether it was physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. And that shaped and steered the rest of your life. And it's a really interesting read because there are many pieces that people will resonate with. And it's one of those things that, a lot of people tap into. Tina, perfect. So Tina says, that's a fear that resonates with me. Yeah, it's big for anybody who does healing work of any kind, that fear of persecution. because we had it. We had it before. And I still have random ways where it comes up, and it's like, I feel like I've healed it. And then this new step comes in. We're looking at moving my whole healing school to Maine near the ocean, because that's what I keep getting called to do. My team and everything has been pushing that for years, and now the energy feels like it's the time. But that's coming out in a whole new community, and how will that be received? And it's a very wide open, exposed energy to be in. But that doesn't mean that, I should allow the old fear to do what's going to be best for me and my students in the future. But yeah, that fear can creep in really easily for a lot of us, because fear is located in that third chakra too, Tina. And so fear is one of those things that is generally, it's what our ego does to keep us from expanding, growing, and changing. So Brandy is saying, is that trauma to wake us up to realize we need to change things? Yes. Whenever we run into events that, are really difficult, that really push against our boundaries, that's always a time when it's time for us to change some aspect of our lives. And it's a course correction. And again, for those of you who know the tarot deck, that is the Tower card. The Tower card is the soul card that says you're playing too small. You're in too small of a container. You need to shift things. You're stuck in the way that you've been doing things, and it's time to shift. And unfortunately, we get little nudges from the universe, and we often discard them. Even those of us who are, teachers, I had nudges for weeks and was like, I don't have time to listen to this. Can we do this in the summer when it's easier? That's not always when the shift and the change needs to happen. And so, yeah, we go through phases of trauma or traumatic events or circumstances because there's something for us to learn from them. It's looking for the gift underneath that can be so, so difficult. And when you're caught in that ego fear place, you can't hear that and you can't experience that. You are still being traumatized by the event. And sometimes years and years later, you're still living in the traumatic energy rather than filling that space with love and compassion and saying, okay, there's a lesson for me here somehow and somewhere. And if I could just find it, then I could release and heal this. So that is like one of those things, many of you know, or I would think most of you know, but maybe not at this point, that I'm somebody who suffered from, severe post-traumatic stress. I was held captive and sexually assaulted when I was 6. I had 22 attempts on my life by different people, all before the age of 12. And in that space, that trauma was unleashed a lot of things. People can get caught up in oh, I'm so sorry for you. And it's like, I don't need that. I don't need that anymore. Because, I realized that, I had a near-death experience because of that, or actually multiple ones. So there was no question for me that the angels existed, because they were right there. And I had lovely conversations with them that I had amnesia about for a while because they were a little bit grown up. And as I was ready to hear the conversations, the wisdom from the angels, that started, sifting in. But it expanded my healing ability, it expanded my radar, it expanded my me being able to read my surroundings. And it also expanded me being resilient and trusting myself. And that may sound strange that at 6, I needed to trust myself, but I did, because the grownups in my life, they weren't abusive. That wasn't the case. They were just very narcissistic, a little self-absorbed. And so they were caught up in their life and their journey and didn't always recognize the fact that I maybe as a child needed a little more boundaries, a little more things that happened, Yes, and Tina says she resonates with my trauma. She was 6 also, and her brain forgot. Yes, it really didn't. I didn't remember any of it until I was, about 18. And the first inkling of it came in. But as I did healing work on myself, as I started to release more and more of the memories came in, and I went through a very large healing with forgiveness, because it may sound strange, but I needed that trauma. I needed that wound for me to be the healer that I am today, because I am able to help people on such a larger stage than if I hadn't experienced trauma. I wouldn't have the empathy. I began my practice working with a lot of post-traumatic stress people, especially I'm very close to the Veterans Hospital. And so I had a number of, young kids as I saw them who suffered a lot of trauma being deployed. They experienced a lot, and even just the way their adrenaline was released and not tamed. It was difficult for them to reintegrate. So that was something that I worked on a lot in the beginning of my practice. So Brandy said, so we blocked trauma out. I was told that something happened to me as a child. I don't recall or remember. Yep, our brain is such a wonderful tool. We will not remember until our body and our soul is ready to. It's part of the work that I do here at my school, is that we work chakra by chakra energetically, kind of shifting and shaking and seeing what's ready to heal in each one. And sometimes we shake trauma out. And people have repressed memories that come through. And instantly, when that happens, we get somebody on the table and we heal right away, so that they don't have to sit in that re-traumatization. They can just have an awareness of the event, and it doesn't trigger you any longer. The brain protects you until it's time. And there's lots of bad things that happen to people. And we have this wonderful machine that protects us. It's like it's a faulty file that our computer goes, nope, we're not going to play that right now. And we don't have to worry about that. I just always look at the fact that it's not going to come through until you're ready to heal it, to resolve it. Call in your spiritual team, call in your the people who help you maneuver that. And, there's a lot of stuff. Yes. So Brandy's saying, I don't think I want to know. There's fear attached. There's always fear attached, sweetie. And when the fear is greater than the love in our body, we won't remember it. As we open our hearts and fill it with more and more compassion and more empathy, when, like I said, when we're ready, we will. We will remember. And if you don't remember, no big deal. It wasn't important for you to remember. So don't sit there and try, there's hypnosis and things like that. But, I will do energy healing on people and experience a wave of trauma. And when I do that, I ask if they have something that happened at a certain age or any other marker that my team gives me. But I am not going to tell that person what the trauma is, because that's traumatizing. So it's like your brain is, when you're ready to remember, you will remember if you're meant to. And that's okay. So don't let anybody push you into that. All right. So the cool thing about the healing that we're going to do in a couple seconds is that we're going to go to our core, and we're going to ask our core and our higher heart to help us send healing and love energy to our core wound, to help it begin to heal, to help it begin to scar over, so that we can have that wound as a guiding force, but it will no longer control our energy and control our lives. And so this is a great one for you, Brandy, too, because you can ask that healing be sent to anything that you're not remembering, so that it could take the anxiety or fear out of the possibility in your body. You don't have to walk around with it. Why walk around with fear of knowing? And just be okay. It's all right. I don't need to remember. So, hi, Pat. We are talking about core wounds and how they really, can impact our life and our direction, and that they're here to teach us something. But we don't have to have our wound wide open and sort of gushing everywhere. We can instead begin to heal it and, stitch it up and allow it to just be a symbol of our path and our growth, rather than continuing to wound us. Does that sound great? So let's get some healing started. I'm going to have a sip of tea from my poo cup. For those of you who know, I'm a big coffee person normally. But part of my stomach thing that we were talking about, it got me completely off. I was already on decaf coffee, but it got me completely off coffee because, yeah, that wasn't the best thing. So honey lavender tea, then my new thing. So let's take a couple of deep breaths. We're going to start by inviting in the divine energy to surround and protect us in a bubble of infinite love and infinite light. Yeah. And we're going to set the intention that this healing is for the good of all and harm to none, including ourselves. Yeah. And as we invite the divine in, we also invite in our spiritual team, our angels, our guides, our ancestors. The star beings, our mystical creatures, our animal totems, all of our team in all the ways that we can be held, loved, and supported in this moment. And we're also going to invite Grandmother Earth to come up and help us to ground our energy. Because when we get nervous or anxious, we sometimes can get a little disconnected from the healing energy of the Divine Feminine beneath our feet. And instead invite her to hold us, to anchor us with that warm and nurturing energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And now we're going to invite our higher self to come in and be present and to reconnect with us within our energy body, in our physical body, allowing our soul chakras and our physical chakras to work together as a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we're going to access our core, our soul center, that star seed, which is right below the solar plexus, very close to the belly button. For most people, it's just a tiny bit above.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask our center, our core, to gently connect to our core wound in all the places it may be located within our body, within our energy system. We're going to ask our high heart, that transcendental heart that connects not only to love and compassion, but the fullness of the original energy of creation and unconditional love on a fuller, higher, and brighter vibration than we have experienced in a long time. And we're going to ask our heart to send healing to all of those wounded places within us, beginning with the third chakra and any energy that is attached to our sense of self, any energy that is attached to fear, uncertainty, anger.
Yeah.
And sending love to our heart in the places where we may be holding shame, blame, or disappointment. Or sadness in an old and deep and wounded way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sending healing energy from our high heart down into our second chakra. In any ways the wounds have impacted our relationships with others, with ourselves. Any ways it has impacted our sexuality or our energy flow with pleasure and joy.
Yeah. Got it.
And sending the healing energy up to our throat. In any ways that it has impeded us from being able to speak our truth. Many ways we've held on to a secret in fear attached to the wound.
Got it.
In any ways it has impeded us from being who we truly are, our authentic self,
Got it.
our true essence. And sending healing down to our root chakra. In any ways that the wound may have impacted our family, our tribe, our sense of safety or security. Any ways that it has caused us to feel unsteady or unsettled. And sending the healing up to our third eye. In any ways the wound has impacted our perceptions of ourselves, of others. Any ways it has impacted our sixth sense, our intuition. And even sending the healing energy up to our crown, in case the wound has disconnected us from source, impacting our sense of trust, or ways it may have created doubt. And now inviting the divine feminine energy. Whether you experience that as connected to Mother Mary or Kuan Yin or Gaia, or simply the divine feminine, just allowing that loving, nurturing, compassionate energy to flow down from the top of your crown, through your third eye and your throat, calming, quieting, loving, nurturing, down into your heart and into your abdomen, your third chakra, solar plexus.
Got it.
Down into your second chakra, your womb, your back, your reproductive organs, through your hips and down your tailbone and down both legs. And just taking a moment to invite the core wound to heal more completely, more fully today, and that it can be used to guide you, but it no longer needs to wound you. Nice. Now gently allow the divine energy to surround you more fully in your aura, as well as filling any nooks and crannies that may want additional healing, additional love and attention.
Yeah.
Releasing all excess energy down into the ground, down beneath the earth, taking it back to the original energy of creation. And now gently begin to come back into this space, into this time. You can stretch or yawn or rub your hands or your feet together, whatever works for you. Don't know if you guys could hear my cat meowing at the end there. He is a Reiki master healer, and he was helping ground the healing energy as we were finishing, which always surprises but delights me at the same time. So there you guys go. I hope that was a lovely experience for you. Many people use their trauma as an excuse. And not that it isn't influencing you, but I can remember the times when, I allowed my trauma to keep me from experiencing joy, going to events, or being with family, it controlled me for a very long time. And I had this sense of simply being a survivor, that I had survived. But as I started to heal my wounds and started to heal my trauma, it was clear to me that I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And so I hope you guys were able to experience that energy of, loving yourself, all aspects of yourself, loving the fact that, you have gone through what you've gone through, because we all have experiences that have shaped us, but they don't have to be categorized as bad or good. They simply can just be. And when we heal the energy attached to it, that's how we can experience it. We can talk about it without being re-traumatized. It doesn't have to trigger any energy within us. It just simply is, which is a wonderful place to be. Thank you, Kimberly. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And Minnie, glad you're here too. Glad you enjoyed that. You're so welcome. So thank you for, coming back with me after being off for a couple weeks. Oh, Bobby says, awesome healing and great timing for his energy to enter the space. Makes me giggle. Ah, yes. So Vicky said, wow, lots of pain and tears, but now I know what I have to clear, and it's not even mine. I witnessed and felt it and have dealt with it. Mine was taken back to my brother and his emotions. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. As empaths, we do that all the time, sweetheart. We take on other people's trauma, other people's pain. I've carried the energy for my family for a long time. I've carried the energy for my school sometimes. I have to catch myself. And I definitely carry the energy for the planet at times. And it's so helpful when we can have that separation of, ooh, this isn't even my wounds that I've been carrying. But it is traumatizing when we witness something, even if we're witnessing someone we love their pain. I know my trauma that I went through traumatized my husband to a degree, because there were so many times when the emotional cleansing of that needed to occur, and he was the person there to try to help me pick up the pieces, which is, not an easy task. But that is how that, can unfold. And so this is a lovely healing to help us get at what's ours and release what's not. So I'm so glad that I know it sounds strange that I'm glad you had pain and tears, but generally we need to have a very strong emotional experience to then shift our behavior, shift our beliefs, shift our patterns, and all of that will bring us to a higher place of healing. You are welcome, Esperanza. Glad you made it. Yes, I do love my life. And in a way, it does feel like lives. You can be there. You can be in that space where it no longer has to rule you. So for those of you who, would like to work with me in person, I am coming live to Star Nations in June. We had to switch it to June because of my my illness. Whew, even forgot why it shifted. So I will be there the second weekend, I believe it is. Actually, it's the third weekend, because the first is the first weekend. So it's the third weekend of June. I'll be at Star Nations for 2.5 days, where we are going to do a deep dive. It's like a school weekend, and I'll tell you, we do so much work, and it will be very centered on what the group needs. And I'm very excited to be able to do this work in person out in Toma, Wisconsin. And for those of you who are out here on the East Coast, on May 18th, on Saturday, we are having an all-day workshop here. Again, it's a healing workshop. It's a day of discovery and transformation. And if you're interested, I'd love to have you guys come see me in person, because I get to know you here, but it would be so nice to be able to hug a few of you and help you along your healing journey. Today at 3:00 Eastern Standard Time, you can watch Neshi live with the daily card draw to give you some insight of the energy and what's going on a planetary basis today, which is really wonderful and beautiful to experience. And then she also has her show tonight, Communications from Home, at 8 p.m. And I did not see what the topic is about tonight, so I apologize for that. But it's always something worth tapping into, because it's really helping us reconnect with Earth and our transformational journey. And I will be back tomorrow evening, yay, at 7 p.m. to do a meditation and a live card draw. I may limit the amount of cards that I draw tomorrow night, because I haven't been feeling myself. We'll see how that goes. So if you are interested in that, I hope to see you then. If not, see you here next week at noon for Chakra Sessions. And with that, you guys, I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. Mwah. Thanks for being here.